Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 40 of The Kickabout with me, Chris, and as always, Dan and Fran are with us.
Hello.
So you might have already heard that it sounds a little different tonight. That's because things have conspired, mainly in my house, that has meant that we are recording in Dan and Fran's house. So we're on, it's like a Kickabout tour, isn't it?
It's glorious. If you hear the guinea pigs in the background, it's just the guinea pigs.
So yeah, lots to get through tonight. So we've got obviously all the drama of the final day. We've got to talk about our views on the signings of the season, the flops of the season. We've got the predictions to do, which are in my bag somewhere, which we did all the way back at the start of the show, which feels an awful long time ago now. And of course, we've got our quiz, which will be me against Dan tonight with no guest. And of course, we've got a reminder of our competition that we are currently running as well. So, right, let's get into it. As always, we'll start with Dan's stat.
Dan the stat man.
Cool. So this one's sort of for you, Chris. I thought I'd do one for you. West Ham had a good season, so I've gone for Vladimir Coufal has recorded the second most Premier League assists from a defender this season with 7. But can you tell me which defender finished the season with the most assists?
Okay, I didn't realise he was that high up. I knew he got quite a lot. I didn't realise he was second. Okay, right. Well, as always, we will get to that later. So we'll start the show. Then we're gonna talk mainly about the top 4 battle and the top 6 battle, and then we'll talk about one or two other teams. But I think the plan is maybe over the next week or two, while there's a bit of a lull in terms of the amount of football that's going on, we'll do a bit more of an in-depth review on more clubs in the Premier League and how their season's gone, rather than trying to kind of cram it in tonight's show. So let's start with the top 4 then. Backwards and forwards, as we kind of thought it was going to be. Really topsy-turvy day, sort of every 10 minutes the situation was seemingly changing. The result, unfortunately, was Leicester missing out again. Were we gutted about this? Because I feel like last week's chat, we were so happy for them winning the FA Cup that now we're sad.
I think they deserved it more than Chelsea and Liverpool.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, how could you not agree with that? I mean, Liverpool spent the entire
I just really
season.
don't like Jamie Vardy.
That's nothing to do. I know he plays for Leicester, but it's nothing to do with Leicester as a whole.
Yeah, Chelsea have had. I would say Liverpool and Chelsea have had good seasons.
Oh, I would completely disagree.
They've not had good. Well, the problem is that
they've had good endings to the season. They've not had good seasons.
No, but I guess the adage is that we said the other week the season's 38 games long. If Liverpool and Chelsea are in the top 4, unfortunately they do deserve it more than Leicester does. I guess from a narrative point of view and a sort of emotional point of view, because we're so invested in Leicester because it's such a lovely club, we want them to be there, but. They've fallen away at the wrong time of the season again. In
contradiction to that, though, can we not say that Leicester haven't had a good season because they end up 5th?
Yeah, but the difference is they were there, I mean, literally the entire season, bar the last day. Whereas Liverpool and Chelsea weren't there the entire season, bar the last day. So I wouldn't really class one day as a great season. Yeah,
242 days inside the... I'm sitting in the middle. I'm going to have to act as intermediary between these two, I think. 242 days inside the top 4. So to miss out on top 4 again is a massive kick in the teeth. We've spoken a lot this season about Liverpool's injuries, but Leicester's injuries just caught up with them a little bit. No Johnny Evans at the weekend. Obviously, Fofana goes off during the game as well. That's their top 2 centre-halves, bar Soyuncu, that's not around.
The pundits did say that they'd rather, looking back on their careers, like Jamie Redknapp was saying, looking back on their careers, they'd rather have won the FA Cup than be like, oh yeah, remember that season we were in the Champions League.
Yeah. I guess the question to you is, do you think that the Leicester fans, when the dust settles and they get over the disappointment, do you think them, and the players would prefer the season they just had with their FA Cup win, or do you think they would trade that for a Champions League place?
Yeah, I was going to say what Fran said, because listening to it was Jamie Redknapp and Michael Richards that sort of said, I think the difference is the board would probably have preferred Champions League football. Because
you think so? Even at Leicester?
Yeah, because I think they would have... obviously it was great they got the FA Cup, but it would have been more money. Most boards would have preferred Champions League.
Yeah, I think if we're talking...
different with Leicester.
Yeah, top 6, the ESL want away, definitely.
But with the players, like Fran said, they don't look back and say, oh, do you remember that time we finished 4th? They sort of say, do you remember that time we won the FA Cup?
Yeah, and obviously the fans being there as well to share the moment. Obviously, it wasn't a full house, but having some fans there to share in that moment of the club's history is massive for them as well. The game itself, Kasper Schmeichel complaining of a foul for his own goal, and then there was obviously the slight controversy about the handball that led to the third goal, I think it was. Third goal? Yeah, I think it was. It was Gareth Bale's first, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fourth.
How did you see those two calls? What about the Schmeichel one? Do you think that was a foul?
I couldn't see a foul at all. I was looking for it, and the only thing I can see is just the pressure, and he's ended up punching it into his own net. I couldn't really see.
If anything, I would argue it's a foul on the attacker.
Yeah.
Because he's literally run into him and tried to punch the ball.
I mean, the attacker's sort of facing the opposite direction. He's not like looked at the goalkeeper to try and impede him. I mean, Schmeichel's just run and jumped into him, so I really can't see where the foul would be.
The way in which Schmeichel hit the attacker, he obviously just didn't see it because he's hit him like he's run straight into a brick wall. Like he just had no idea it was there. He didn't brace himself or anything. So maybe it's just the impact that makes him think that someone's run into him, and maybe he hasn't seen the replay. But yeah, for me, there's no foul there at all.
No, I don't think so.
What about the handball?
The handball, I do think was handball. I think the only reason they didn't give it was because it didn't sort of lead directly to the goal. I think if he'd have sort of done that and then shot and it went in, they would have looked at it and said handball. But I think because he sort of ran with it a bit and then passed it and then it sort of went back to Bale and then went in, I think so much sort of time had gone on that they almost didn't look at it.
Well, as I knocked them right there, they've adjusted the rule, haven't they, about these accidental handballs that lead to goals. And I can't remember the exact ruling, but I know previously it was literally any handball that leads to a goal is automatically chalked off, whether it's accidental or not. I'm pretty sure they tweaked that to say that accidental handballs that directly result to a goal are allowed. I'm sure that was what the tweet was. So if that's the case, maybe that's why it's gone on. But I mean, is it accidental? Yes, I guess.
Yeah, it's not intentional at all, but it's not one, where someone boots it and it's hit your arm type thing. I mean, he's running and as he's running, his arms sort of come up and it's helped him. He's pushed the ball forward with his arm. It's one of those, but either way, Tottenham would have still won 3-2. So
and I mean Leicester, for all their good stuff this year, the 2 goals they scored were 2 penalties. I'm thinking back to the highlights that I watched. I can't remember too many clear cut chances otherwise. Ian Hatcho by his standards recently had an off day. He wasn't very good. So, and then Liverpool, obviously they had things in their own hands really into this weekend. They knew that if they won, it would be enough to secure them anyway. They made fairly light work of Crystal Palace. Do you think, we were talking earlier about the contrast of the seasons and the perceptions of them. Do you think that their recovery has actually gone a bit under the radar? Because the last 10 games they've not lost. They've won 8 of their last 10, drawn 2. And that form has got them back into the Champions League. They ended up finishing 3rd. Yeah.
Well, even Jurgen Klopp said he had no idea how they finished 3rd. But yeah, I think although obviously it was a disappointing season, I think they can almost look at it in 2 halves really. Sort of the fact
almost break it into 3/3.
Yeah, I mean obviously it was one of the worst sort of title defences from any team. But at the same time to sort of bounce back and end up finishing 3rd, it was almost a great season.
Well, they were like 8th in March, weren't they?
Yeah. And they lost, and they had like their worst ever home record, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's been kind of forgotten a little bit, isn't it? That home run that they went on for so long and they didn't lose.
Lost 6 games.
And then they lose 6 in a row at home. I mean, and also the teams they were losing to.
Yeah.
Burnley, Brighton.
A 7-2 thrashing by Villa early in the season.
Yeah. So it's going to be an intriguing summer, I feel, for Liverpool because everybody expects now. There was some rumours earlier in the season about Klopp and whether he would stay, but I think that's probably been put to bed. It looks very much like he's going to stay. What do you think they're going to be in the market for in the summer? If it were me, even when Gomez and Van Dijk come back, I'm not sure that Phillips and Williams. Is it Phillips and Williams? Yeah, Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. He apparently is heading off. He was only on loan.
Well, I read this morning that they're thinking of signing him permanently.
Okay, that'd be interesting. But yeah, what my point was I don't think that those two have done enough for Klopp to think that they are my next choice. I think he probably wants something a bit better at 3rd choice because Matip is still there, but I mean he's more injured than like Antonio is at West Ham. He's ridiculous. So I think they do need another centre back. And what do you think about? obviously Wijnaldum is leaving.
Yeah.
That was his last game.
Yeah.
So another centre midfielder as well.
Yeah, because I mean, you've got players like Jordan Henderson who's not getting any younger, and James Milner and that. Obviously, I think they need to start bringing in players that are going to replace these players that are on their last legs, because injuries do happen, and you don't want. I think this will be an eye opener that they need to replace certain players. Or at least bring in reinforcements. What you want, ideally, is what City have got, which is like 2 squads.
Yeah.
So that if I think that's why City have done so well this season, because everybody else has been picking up injuries.
Yeah.
Even City, if they pick up an injury, say Laporte gets injured, they've then got Ruben Dias and John Stones and still got Nathan Ake, etc.
Yeah, and up until recently, they had Eric Garcia as well.
Yeah, I mean they've got such a massive quality squad. I think that's why they've dominated this year.
Yeah. What about the whole Salah Mane thing? Because obviously, again, the noise was about them not liking each other and not passing to each other. The rumours of Salah leaving, again, a bit like Klopp, have gone away a little bit. Maybe coinciding with Liverpool's upturn in form. But when I was watching, you can't help but watching now that the media have mentioned it, sometimes you can't help but look at the reactions.
And that match was
the other team.
prime example of Salah not sharing.
What, this one just got?
Honestly,
yeah,
oh my gosh, it was so selfish.
There was, and on that, there was a couple of times where Salah was trying to do the whole sort of bend it far corner type thing, and Mane was literally at the back post completely unopposed.
Even when Mane was free.
But did you notice that Mane did not react at all? He almost turned around and expected, he's like, I never even expected him to pass. That was what it looked like to me.
I think Salah was quite close to Harry Kane for the Golden Boot, so I can imagine he was trying his hardest to try and catch up.
Yeah. And he has still scored a lot of goals this season, Salah. So he's had Liverpool have had a poor season by their standards. Salah still broke the 20-goal mark again. So,
but, I mean, you're talking about Salah and Mane. What do you think about Firmino? Do you think he's still the number 9 that Liverpool need?
I don't know. I mean, Jota's come in and been an absolute breath of fresh air for Liverpool. And I think that if Jota had stayed fit over the Christmas period when they had their downturn in form, I think their form may not have been as bad, because Jota seemed like the only player at that time who was really in red hot form. I don't know.
The only thing I think, if they were to bring in, I don't know, let's just say a Haaland.
Yeah.
I think they'd struggle. All 3 of those players want to score goals. I think you'd struggle with the likes of Salah. I mean, Mane is not too bad because he's not quite as selfish as Salah, but I feel like if you had 2 or 3 selfish strikers, it just doesn't work. Whereas Firmino and Mane, for me, are a lot less selfish and are more happy to get assists than someone like Salah is.
Yeah, Firmino definitely. He is very much a team player, or team first and foremost. He's not massively. It doesn't seem to be anyway. So, it would be very interesting to see if they brought in another really top striker like a Haaland or a Lukaku or a Harry Kane, for example. How that would affect the dynamic. Does Klopp have to change his system and not play that attacking 3?
Yeah, I feel like someone like Firmino works best just because of how unselfish he is. Like I said, I think if you had 2 or 3 selfish players, it would almost be negative rather than positive.
But, I mean, if you think back to the Barcelona days where they had Messi, Neymar and Suarez, all 3 of those you would class them as selfish players. You look at some of the goals that they score, but they also had that time where they would more than happy roll it onto somebody else, and they all worked together and got 30-odd goals a season each. I don't know if Salah and Mane have got that in them to do that.
No, I think Liverpool will be midfield and defence that they look at. I don't think they'll be looking at strikers, and I don't think there's anyone really out there that's affordable. I don't think they'll be going for like a Harry Kane or a Haaland, because Liverpool don't really have the money that the likes of Chelsea and and City do, etc.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk Chelsea then. Made life hard for themselves, shall we say, with this result. They had to rely on. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so I'm going to be coughing a lot. Had to rely on Spurs. Would you believe? They had to become Spurs fans for the day because of their poor result at Villa. How did you rate Chelsea's performance?
Well, like you say, they were poor. They were poor, and it's not really looking good going into the Champions League final. To be honest, they've been poor for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea will be happy with the top 4. There's no doubt about that. But there's a bit of a similar pattern evolving with them, isn't there, in terms of their lack of goal-scoring exploits. And there was a stat that came up on Match of the Day which absolutely shocked me. I had no idea that Jorginho was their top scorer. With 7.
Harry Kane.
Well, I mean, they do need a striker quite clearly. I mean, Jorginho scored 7. Do you want to guess how many of them are penalties?
All of them.
All of them, yeah. So, and then the really starting thing was, which I wanted to pick up on, was the fact that Tammy Abraham is their joint second scorer. And if I go through my notes here, as I look at the stats, he's got 6 goals this season, so it's not an impressive tally. But his last goal came in December against Arsenal. And since then, he's only played one 90-minute match. Other than that, he's played, I think, 45 minutes twice, looking at my notes, 5 times an unused sub, 3 times not even in the squad. There was a month of injuries as well. But, like, you look at the amount of chances that Werner had. Why didn't Tuchel give Abraham more of a run?
Yeah, and Werner also finished on 6, I think, along with Mount, didn't he? So, yeah, it's pretty poor. It'd be interesting to see what they do with that sort of position, because I feel like Havertz came into his own sort of towards the second half of the season. You start to see the player that Chelsea signed. But Werner, I mean, they didn't sign him to be getting assists and creating goals. They signed him to be scoring. And well, I think one of the stats was that he's scored more ruled out goals than he has actual goals, isn't he?
Yeah, it's been a very tricky season for him. I look at him sometimes and I just look at almost like a rough diamond. Like, you know, there's a player in there because he works so hard, and you can tell that he's almost trying to do the right things, but he's almost like he's just not happening for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden next year it clicks and he ends up scoring 25 goals.
I was going to say, I'd like to see him given another chance. I don't think you can just write him off, because there is a great player there. I mean, he was doing it at Leipzig.
Yeah.
And I know that's a different league, but I do, he's a German international. He's Germany's number 9. So I do think there is a great player there.
Yeah.
And he seems like a generally nice guy, to be fair. When I've seen his interviews, I do feel bad for him.
Indeed. Right, so let's move on and talk about the top 6 battle, which in the end, going into the last day, was really only involving West Ham and Spurs. All the chips were very much with West Ham. Everton needed a very large goal swing to get anywhere near that, and they got that, but in the wrong direction, which we'll get onto later. So Southampton started well against West Ham, but West Ham eventually, it felt like they never really got out of second gear. It wasn't an all gusto performance. They did what they needed to, got a couple of goals and before half time, and it killed the game off really. So 6th place for West Ham. 2 points in the end off of Champions League place.
Crazy.
Daringly close, when I think back to some of the results that might have been, as you do at the end of the season, I suppose, when you're in those positions, you look back and you try and think, if we'd have just won there and picked up a point there. But overall, what a season for West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as much as it would have been like a
I'm
fairy
glad
tale
we've been able to document it for you.
I know, it's amazing. This is historical.
Yeah. As much as it would have been fairy tale to get Champions League, I think Europa League is better for West Ham, because I think you'll do better in it.
Yeah.
Especially with the squad. I mean, you look at, no disrespect, but you look at your squad, it's not...
We've punched above our weight this year.
You're not going to be able to be competing with PSG and Bayern Munich, etc. Whereas in Europa League, I feel like you could make a good go of it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think Champions League would have been the stuff of fairy tales. You'd have been loving it. It's a bit like trying to think of an example. When like Leicester were in the Champions League, they did end up doing very well, but you always had that feeling like they were there just because it was great experience. Those amazing games under the lights midweek against massive European teams, but ultimately they were never going to win it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same for West Ham. Like if Barcelona came to the London Stadium, or Madrid or Juventus or whoever, it's like, wow, this is not going to happen again for a long time. But we don't realistically have any chance of winning it. But in the Europa League, as you say, I wouldn't say we got a chance to win it particularly. We certainly got a chance to go a lot further.
Yeah, I would look at West Ham as sort of one of the teams that could quite easily get to sort of the quarters.
Yeah. So just quickly on Southampton, second worst points tally of 2020. Just to highlight how bad their form has been. Only Fulham were worse than them in the calendar year. So perhaps this result in the way it panned out wasn't too surprising.
The second worst defence as well.
Which is horrific, really. I mean, the 9-0 drubbing against United probably didn't help.
Yeah.
I mean, where does Southampton go from here? I mean, Hasenhüttl said after the game, he was pretty philosophical about it. I think he just, he ultimately said that we'd had a great first half of the season. The second half was really poor. Do you see Danny Ings moving on? Do you think he's probably done enough to justify a move away?
How old is he now?
He's in the late stages of his career, I believe.
He's late. I believe he's late 20s. He's not as old as you think.
Well, I'd say like 29, getting towards 30. I think Southampton were very much already on their holidays, to be honest, over the last couple of games.
What, from Christmas?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't really have anything to play for, did they? They weren't getting relegated.
No, that's the problem with those sort of mid-table teams, especially when you're a bad run of form.
So I've just Googled Danny Ings. He's 28, but guess who he's being linked with?
West Ham?
Man United.
Oh. He's not like a title-winning player. Do you know what I mean?
He's scoring a lot of goals in a poor side.
He started very well. He seemed to sort of disappear a bit back end of the season.
He was in and out of the team with injuries, but
I mean, I don't understand where he'd fit in the United team, like with Cavani. I mean, unless you swap them every other game or you just wait for Cavani to get injured.
Yeah. Depends, I guess, how serious Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to fight on four fronts next year. But we'll see. Just going through, so just want to talk briefly about David Moyes and the job that he's done. Obviously, if you look at, we had a very thin squad, which I said at the start of the season, we almost got relegated. The signings that he's made, some of the tactical decisions against some of the bigger teams weren't great, but by and large, he's got his tactics really good this season. He's got to be in the conversation for manager of the season, do you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Just in terms of the overachievement. Because I think every sort of manager, you look at Guardiola obviously winning the title, but I mean, you'd almost expect that. That's the problem when you have those sort of managers. They set the bar so high.
Yeah. Like
we've said it with players, the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne, they set the bar so high, even when they have outstanding seasons, it's almost not impressive.
Yeah, exactly. Winning the title with City is not justifiable enough to win manager of the season alone. You've got to do something else, like the champion. If he wins the Champions League, I think he probably gets manager of the season. But if he doesn't, I don't think Tuchel's done enough to justify manager of the season, even if he wins the Champions League. Though.
No, and I think if Leicester had finished in Champions League spots, I think you could have said Brendan was an argument there. But from just winning the FA Cup, I mean, don't get me wrong, winning the FA Cup's a great feat, but I don't know, it's tough. But yeah, I would say David Moyes is up there.
It's all coming up Moisey.
Yeah.
So right, let's talk Spurs. They did all they could on the final day of the season by beating Leicester. I mean, what a ridiculous up and down season Spurs have had this year. The amount of sort of drama that's been in and around that club, both on and off the field, that's been condensed into one season is staggering. I mean, if we go, I'm sure Fran won't appreciate this, but if we go back through the season, Mourinho's obviously started to show the signs earlier than normal with the unrest in the team. He then gets sacked a week before the cup final, which they then lose. The ESL stuff happens and falls apart, and Spurs, along with the other teams, have a bit of a reputational hit. Well, probably a big one. Kane then announces his intention to leave, so they've now got to face the reality, as funny as it is for a West Ham fan, of going into a Europa League conference, which is, in UEFA's words, it is designed for the minnows of Europe. It's one of those ones that years ago there was something called the Intertoto Cup, which effectively was for 7th place. So this is almost like a new version of that. And it was a sort of, I think we said on the group chat that it's great if you're probably even a West Ham because of how infrequently we get to Europe, or a Wolves, or an Everton, or a Leeds. Somebody who's just knocking on the door of the European places but can't quite make that jump to Europa. It works for them perfectly. But for a club the size of Spurs and even Arsenal, who were half within a shout at the weekend, it does seem like a bit of a kick in the teeth. It's almost like the final icing on the cake, isn't it? So if you can, Fran, can you sum up your feelings for Spurs this season? Are you happy it's all over?
Yeah, it has been a weird one. I just don't understand, like I said in the group chat, why would you not have started Bale and Lucas Moura even on Sunday? But even in general, like when Gareth Bale first came back, I appreciate he hadn't played for ages and blah, blah, blah. But why would you not play them?
It was. I mean, Bale didn't really start to properly play for Spurs until sort of January, February.
Yeah, and he did have a few injuries, but there's a website that I found which really documents exactly how much they play, whether or not they're injured, etc. And if we look at the second half of the season, I was actually surprised. He really wasn't injured a great deal in the second half of the season.
No.
He just wasn't being played.
No.
And I've got some stats here. I mean, if you look at his... he hasn't actually had 90 minutes all season.
No, I know.
Not once has he played 90 minutes. And his minutes per goal is 84 minutes per goal. So he guarantees you a goal every time he plays based on that ratio.
Not saying that if he had played all the time, obviously the season would have been better, but why would you...
I think it improves it. I think that he could be the difference between the 7th and the 6th place that you've ended up having to fight for.
I don't know how Harry Kane got golden boots. I really don't remember all these goals either.
Well, I mean, to put it in perspective, the 84 minutes. So Harry Kane, 134 minutes per goal. Mo Salah, 140. Fernandes, 173. You know, we waxed lyrical about Harry Kane, Salah and Fernandes about their goal-scoring feats this season. And Harry Kane has... Gareth Bale scored 11 goals in 20 appearances. But again, those 20 appearances, they're kind of bit part games. They're not full 90 minutes, so it's even more impressive. Only Cavani has got a higher goal conversion rate in the Premier League.
I feel like Lucas Moura petered out a bit as well. He was banging at the start of the season, and then he hasn't. But then again, he hasn't been played as much recently either.
I think Spurs' problem was they had all this attacking talent, but their defence was very shoddy. Obviously, they lost Vertonghen, who I think was sort of the rocket. He was almost their Vincent Kompany.
Leader.
Yeah, and Alderweireld's getting on a bit.
Yeah.
Eric Dyer is one of the worst footballers I've ever seen.
Oh, what, compared to Phil Jones?
Well, I mean, if you want to compare him to Phil Jones, then...
Yeah, but Phil Jones doesn't play. Tottenham keep playing Eric Dyer. I mean, it's... As I say, as a West Ham fan, I have to have a slight wry smile when I see the plight of other London teams that are rivals not having so great, in the same way that, you know, I'm looking at Arsenal not getting Europe for the first time in 25 years, and it brings a smile to my face because we're partly the reason for it, because we finished above them. But yeah, do you see any situation of Bale returning to Spurs next season on loan or even permanently?
I don't know, really.
I don't think so. I think it'd just be too expensive. I can't see Real Madrid bailing them out again with the wages and stuff. No,
I mean, the wages that he's on, Real Madrid have made a rod for their own back. There's talk I saw today that they're willing to listen to offers for Bale and for Eden Hazard after his horrific 2 years that he's had.
Chelsea were linked with a 45 million bid for Hazard earlier.
Oh, get him back in the Prem.
That'd be a good bit of business, wouldn't it? Yeah. Selling for how much they're selling for?
What? Was it 100 or
100 odd million and buying for 45?
Yeah. But with Bale, I mean, I don't think he would want to leave Madrid because of that 600 grand a week contract. He
is one of the few players that I can actually say that I genuinely think that he not actually bothered about playing.
No, I think he would choose money and golf over, going and playing 90 minutes every week.
Yeah. Which is a shame because he's shown at times this season that he has still got the ability to be that difference maker.
He's still only 30, so, even though he's a winger, he could quite easily move into a central spot. But a bit like Ronaldo and sort of play till he's 35, 36.
Yeah. Harry Kane, just touch on him quickly, widely expected to leave at the end of the season. We've talked a little bit about who the next manager is going to be. We sort of believe here that Nuno might be a good person to put some money on now that he's announced his leaving from Wolves. Do you think that the fact that Kane has announced his intention to leave, do you think that actually has a negative impact on any manager coming in?
Just to clarify, he's not announced he's going to leave, but he's announced that he wouldn't rule it out.
Who Kane? Yeah, that's true. But he's doing these interviews with.
Yeah, I mean,
he's applying pressure.
You would assume, but I think we should just clarify so we don't piss off any Spurs.
No, I mean, ultimately, if Levy wants him to stay, he will stay.
At the end of the day, he signed a contract.
Exactly.
I think he's got 3 years or so on his contract. So the only way I can see him leaving is if both of them have sort of maybe agreed something pre-season that if they still don't win anything, then, he'd let him go.
Yeah.
But then again, it also depends on, would they sell him to Chelsea? Would they sell him to City, or would they hope that Barcelona and Real Madrid would come in for him? I think it really depends on a lot of things. The problem when you have a player like as good as Harry Kane, who probably is one of the best, definitely is one of the best strikers in the world, whether you say he is the best striker in the world, but is it's very hard to find teams that can afford him.
Yeah, there is only a select few that you would argue that could probably do it. But there are clubs out there who need strikers.
Yeah.
You know, City need a striker, Chelsea need a striker. By all accounts, Barcelona needed one, although it looks like Aguero is going there, so that rules them out.
I mean, Real Madrid, Benzema's getting on now.
Yeah, and if they are trying to sell Bale and Hazard, then that almost certainly means they're trying to raise funds to sign somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting. But what else does Spurs need, do you think, to have a better season next year? I mean,
they need 2 centre-backs, in my opinion. I don't really rate, although I joke about it, I don't rate Eric Dyer. I feel like he's one of these players who just doesn't really know what position.
Reminds me a bit of Wes Brown.
Yeah, I don't feel like he's a centre-back. I don't think he gives away a lot of silly penalties and stuff like that. Alderweireld's getting on a bit, and I could see him leaving this season. And Sanchez is another one where he's risky. I mean, the penalty he gave away was just, it's just a silly foul. So in my opinion, they need 2 centre-backs. Right back, maybe, because
Doherty's not done it,
Doherty's not the one, and Aurea is another loose cannon that gives away silly penalties. Potentially, I mean, I would say the entire back four, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, one player actually on that, one player who's really disappointing was Reguilon.
Yeah.
When he came in at the start of the season, and I watched him a few games, I thought, geez, he's a player. And he came in with such a reputation, because I think he was on loan from Madrid to Valencia?
Sevilla.
So was it Sevilla?
Sevilla. Yeah.
And, he was arguably the best left-back in the league, and he came with a big reputation. It seemed like a bit of a coup for Spurs to get him. Started really well, but towards the end of the season, he's been an absolute liability for Spurs.
Yeah, did score a hell of a...
It was hell of an own goal, I'll give him that, yeah. You won't see many better than that. One final point on the Spurs before we move on. Obviously, we said they're in the Conference League next year. So are Roma from Italy. Who's Roma's manager next season? It's happening. He's coming back to haunt Spurs. Mark my words. Mark my words. Right, let's move on and talk Man City Everton, a game that was all about the title party, I suppose, after, but of course there was the additional emotions of Sergio Aguero playing his last home game for the club, given a guard of honour by Everton, and then also, or the team were, sorry, and then Aguero was given a guard of honour by both teams. And of course he had to have the final say, didn't he? It was almost written in the stars that he would come on and leave his mark on what's been an amazing career in the Premier League.
Yeah, and did you see the stat about the last time he scored 2 goals as a substitute?
No.
It was his debut against Swansea.
Really? So he started and ended in the exact same way. Wow. I mean, the 2 goals just really summed up Aguero's career in the Premier League, because the first one was just so casual. It was so... I think your guinea pig's either a Spurs or Man City fans, because they're getting very agitated when we're talking about
I told you, they go nuts from the podcast.
But yeah, the first goal for Aguero was just so casual. It was like, I've got so much more ability than you, I'm just going to roll it in with the outside of my foot.
I'm so happy that the crowd were back for him there.
Yes.
The smile on his face as well, I think it literally just made it.
Yeah. And then the second goal, of course, was just an outstanding header. Virtually on the edge of the box, to put the ball in the corner with such power and precision is just amazing. And of course, interestingly, the record of number of goals for a single club in the Premier League was 183 before the day. Aguero was on 182. Big rival of Man United, Wayne Rooney, and he decided to not only equal it, but he decided to go one better. So signing off it in style.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him. He's been one of the best strikers in the last decade. Although he's killed me as a United fan over the last 10 years, I think he's been enjoyable to watch, 100%.
So who had a lump in their throat watching Pep talk about Aguero after the game?
He was sort of crying. Pulled on the old heartstrings.
It was. It's been a very wholesome few weeks in football, wasn't it? With Leicester's FA Cup win and this. But yeah, it was. He's one thing that really got me as well was when he talked about. It was almost like a dad watching their son leave the house and moving out on his own, because he was talking about going to Barcelona, and he's clearly still got this massive affinity with Barcelona and with Messi, sort of saying, I can't wait for him to go and play for that club and play with the best player in the world. You think any other manager giving that level of endorsement, it would be a bit weird, but with Guardiola, you think, yeah, fine. Do what you want.
I feel like Guardiola is such a sort of father figure. I mean, even with someone like Phil Foden.
Yeah. So, I mean, a new striker's coming in for City. I don't think there's any two ways about it. Who do we think is going to end up there?
Harry Kane.
You think? I personally think Harry Kane's.
I would love that so much.
Man City are going to be freaking unstoppable if Harry Kane goes.
Imagine watching them.
I don't
hope
want
Harry
to.
Kane doesn't go United because United are boring.
I can't. I can't see him going to United. I don't think we'd blow all our budget.
I don't think Red would suit him.
We wouldn't blow all our. We wouldn't blow all our budget on Harry Kane. Whereas City, I can't think of a position they need more than a number 9 or number 10. I guess Harry Kane is, but
Yeah, I mean, Jesus has shown signs that he's capable of scoring good goals.
They've got Gundogan though. Who else do they need?
Yeah, so Gundogan going to play number 9.
yeah, the fact that Gundogan was their top scorer.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said it. He was the top scorer.
So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer to see who they go for. We know, obviously, they've got money to burn, so price isn't going to be an issue. They've spent an awful lot of money sorting their defence out over the last few years, and they appear to have now fixed that with Ruben Dias.
How funny though if you joined there and then they didn't win any trophies next year.
Good.
Let's talk Everton.
What a shambles they've had.
As we talked about this on the group chat, and I posted the questions to you both about Ancelotti and whether he's, should he be worried about the sack in the summer because of the season they've had? Or am I being too harsh? Do I think that? Do you think that it's, weird season that they've done well, and they're just held off?
Well, I think Ancelotti's favourite for the Real Madrid job if Zidane goes.
Is he really?
Yeah, and I mean, other than just being obviously the name he is, it's not. I mean, it's not a sort of credentials because I think Everton have had a really poor season.
Yeah, I mean, just to give it a little bit of context, they finished 10th in the end, which is better than last year. 59 points, 10 better than last year. So there's been improvement.
At the start of the season, they were like...
Well, this is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've had such a good start to the season that I think that stat is a bit misleading and doesn't really tell you the whole story of their season.
Yeah, but Southampton were third after 13 games, but I would still say they had a crap season.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, obviously, a manager like Ancelotti, he's got so much experience. He's been a manager at some really top clubs. He's won a lot of trophies. And as you said in the chat, he's been backed. It's not like he's not brought players in. Look at some of the players he brought in the start of the season. He brought in Alan, he brought in Decore, he brought in James Rodriguez. And the inconsistency of their form is really, really poor. I mean, since Boxing Day, they've won 4 on the trot with the win on Boxing Day. But since then, they've only managed to win 2 games in a row once, and they've only won 8 wins. They've only won 8 times for the rest of the season, which isn't horrific. But for a team where they were, and for a team that wants to push on to get into Europe, that's just not good enough. And their home form has been awful.
And they've got the players to do a lot better. I mean, you sort of compare Everton's squad to say West Ham's squad, and I mean you would pip Everton over the likes of West Ham, and then you've got the likes of David Moyes against Ancelotti. You would pip Ancelotti. So yeah, I mean I really thought Everton would be fighting. I thought they were certain Europa League, but I thought they'd be knocking on the door for Champions League. But, I mean, second half of the season, they were nowhere near. Really. I know it was close in the end, but I never really felt like Everton were going to get European football.
No, I mean, we joked, didn't we, every time a game week went past, and we said that Everton were, again, doing their utmost to make sure they didn't get European football. They felt like they were deliberately trying to avoid it. Maybe they didn't want that 7th place.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, okay, we're going to head to a break then. When we come back, we are going to go through our signings and flops of the season. We'll talk a couple more games, and then we'll get into the end of the Statman stuff, our predictions, and then the quiz. See you in a minute. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. Good timing on the coughing from the guinea pig there. Right, so we'll start by going through our signings of the season and then going to our flops of the season. So before we get going, Fran, why don't you tell us what people have been saying as their signings of the season?
So, Shursey said Willock and Callum Wilson.
Very hard to argue with Willock.
Yeah.
Who said?
Shearer.
Oh.
What do you think? Callum Wilson?
Yeah.
In there?
Yeah, I'd agree with both.
Callum Wilson?
Yeah, Callum Wilson.
Yeah, I think he's just been like not in the limelight as much.
Well,
He's done well.
He was injured for quite a while, but I mean, you saw the difference it made when he came back.
That's the thing, isn't it? The difference that him and St. Maximin have made.
But I think he's been overshadowed by St. Maximin.
And more recently, Joe Willock.
Yeah, I think he has done well, but I think there's just been less media about him, potentially.
Yeah.
Because of the other two. Pete said best Cavani, worst Brewster.
Can't argue with either of those really. I think Cavani's been. He started off the season a bit slow, didn't he? I don't know if did he have injuries at the start of the season? He was
injured, yeah.
But certainly recently, his eye for goal. I mean, we said he's got the best shot conversion rate to goals in the Premier League of all strikers.
Does he play though? Like he doesn't. Yeah. Does he play consistently?
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah.
Oh, I just don't watch United. And Joe said Thiago Silva, which I disagree with.
I think he's stretching on Thiago Silva.
He said been an unbelievable signing for us. This was 11 hours ago, so I wouldn't even question if he was drunk at this point.
And it's Monday, so yeah, any day.
I'm not sure. He also said Werner and Havertz have both been shit.
Thiago Silva, the only thing I would say with him is that he clearly has had an impact because he has, they went on that run where they didn't concede many goals, but I would almost go as far to say that was more down to Mendy coming in.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anyone has really, even on Match of the Day or anything, no one's really sung his praises that much.
I mean,
as opposed to
I guess he was free, so in terms of it being a free signing, he's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
And he as I say, he has made a difference. He has clearly he is a voice, he is a leader, so that would have had an impact. But I don't know if he's had enough of a material impact to be classed as a signing of the season, unless he's taking it purely from a Chelsea perspective. Then if that's the case, then fair enough. As in terms of worst signings of the season, again, if he's taking it from a Chelsea perspective, I don't think you can argue. But I think if that's a worst signing in the league, I think that both of them, I think that's a bit harsh. Both of them have had good moments. We ripped the piss out of Werner, and so has most of the country watching him play 7 times this season. But I don't think you could class him as a flop.
No, I do think
not
Havertz,
quite.
I think Havertz improved, like I said before, towards the second half of the season. And yeah, with Werner, he's not a flop because he did still score goals and he got quite a few assists, and he was always sort of there in dangerous areas. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't we can't play him because he's absolutely shit. He played most games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, I think that was everybody. That was. What about us then? What do we think? I mean, flops of the season, definitely Ryan Brewster.
Yeah,
he has to be right up there.
I picked 3 of each. So Ryan Brewster was the worst for me.
Yeah.
Because even Alisson scored more goals than him. He got 0 goals, 0 assists, and they spent 20 million on him.
Which for Sheffield United is a big budget.
Which for Sheffield is a lot. Unfortunately for them, it's just not worked out. My second choice was Willian.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, at the start of the season, when he came in, I thought that was a really astute piece of business from Arsenal to sign him, and he had that amazing first game of the season against
3
Fulham.
assists he got in his first game. That was it.
And I thought, wow, he's in for a season here, and then he's literally done barely anything since.
And his first goal was his second to last game of the season.
Wasn't it? So. And the rumour is that he's on his way out in the summer, so that has not worked out at all.
No. And lastly, I went for Ross Barkley.
Oh, that's controversial.
So I think he disappeared.
I don't disagree, to be fair.
He started another one that started off quite well, and I thought, especially when against Liverpool, I thought he was sort of instrumental in that game and their attack. And then I just almost completely forgot he was there. It was only when I'd occasionally watch a Villa game and they'd bring him on as a sub, or you'd just see him on the TV. I'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot Ross Barkley's there. Yeah.
There's a couple of others for me. Donny van der Beek at Man United. I don't think that's necessarily entirely down to him.
I didn't pick him, and there was someone else. I can't remember who it was. There were 2 players I didn't pick that I nearly sort of said were flops, but it was mainly just for the fact that they just never got played, which isn't their fault. Because I feel like when Donny did play, he actually had really good games. Ollie just seemed to... I don't know, it was almost sort of childish that he wouldn't play him, I guess, because I don't think it was his signing.
I was going to say, do you think he was just basically... standing up to the fact that I didn't sign him, I'm not playing him. I think
it was a sort of message to the board that, if you sign me players I don't want, I'm not going to play them.
Yeah.
which I feel really bad for Donny because I do think he's a good player and he played really well against Wolves the other day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully he can have a better second season, but I think in terms to money and expectations, regardless of the reasons behind it, I think for me it has to be classed as a flop in terms of the signing.
Yeah.
The other one that comes to mind is Grady Diangana from West Ham. Now, obviously, there was a big kerfuffle about this, about West Ham fans hating the fact that we'd sold him. He'd had a great season for West Brom the year before in the Championship during their promotion. He'd had a really good pre-season for us, and then we sold him for not huge amounts of money, and he's done literally nothing for West Brom all season. So I think that one's got to be up there as well.
Yeah, the other player I was thinking of alongside Donny was Josh King. One that's
just obscurity, isn't he? It's like you never hear him.
Yeah, it's another one where you sort of watch Everton and then all of a sudden he'll come on in the 80th minute and you're like, oh yeah, Josh King's there.
I can't think of too many others. I think the obvious ones are the ones that you've already called out.
Yeah.
I don't think there's, off the top of my head, I can't think of too many others that. What
about the best signings of the season?
Ruben Dias has to be up there. The difference that he's made in that Man City team. I know Pete, for example, wasn't massively impressed. He sort of thinks he was a bit of a slow burner to get going. I don't massively disagree with that. But if you look at overall what the difference that he's made to that side, they have found their Vincent Kompany in him. And bearing in mind he's only 23, he plays like a player that's sort of 28. That level head on him. So him, I think Cavani has ended up becoming a fantastic piece of business for United.
Yeah, especially for a free transfer as well. I mean, I definitely hold my hands up and say I got that wrong because when we announced we were signing him, to me it just seemed desperate. We sort of missed out on signing Sancho and we just went for the sort of first player that was available. But I mean, it's ended up working out really well and we've signed him on another 1-year deal, which I'm actually really happy about because I think he'll be good for the likes of Mason Greenwood.
Yeah, I agree. There's a kind of other players that I can think of that I wanted to include at some point, that I would have included at some point during the season. People like Hakim Ziyech, or how you pronounce it, at Chelsea. I thought, when I watched him at Ajax, I thought he was a fantastic player at Ajax. And I thought, if somebody gets him, they got a player.
Yeah.
And when Chelsea signed him, I was genuinely quite excited and he started really well. And then he's faded away. He's had some good moments here and there. He obviously scored I think he scored the winning goal, or one of the goals in the semi-final against Man City, I believe, in the FA Cup semi-final. He's just not kind of kicked on as much as I thought. So he was one that I wanted to kind of put in. If I think close to home, I think Kufau. I think I'm not going to include Souček, even though we signed him permanently, just because he was already a known quantity because we had him on loan for half a season the year before. So, and he was brilliant that half a season. He's been great this year as well. So you could argue he's in there, but I think Kufau, I'm going to put him in instead because he cost us like $5 million.
Yeah,
and as you said, he's the second highest assister in the league. His work rate is amazing. He's probably the best right back I can think that West Ham have had for a long time. And fair play to Souček because apparently it was basically him that told Moyes to go and sign him. Moyes apparently asked him like, if you could sign anyone from your club, who would it be? And Souček said him.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah, two more I had written down were Martinez from Villa.
Yeah, great shout.
Obviously been outstanding for Villa. And they really struggled with a goalkeeper and a striker last season, and Ollie Watkins has been great for them as well.
Yeah.
And then the sort of last player I put down was Fofana for Leicester. I think he's been really good. Yeah,
it's a good shout. Watching him play was disappointing from my side of things because obviously West Ham were in for him, and watching him perform like that, I think, if you were at us, how good would that be? As great as Craig Dawson has been, Fofana is that he's a young player for the future, isn't he? So those are our signings and flops of the season. If you haven't already commented on social media and want to let us know if we're right or wrong, and got your own suggestions, then do let us know. Right, let's talk some other teams. We'll touch on Newcastle against Fulham quickly. As I said earlier on, we are going to go through some of the other teams that we haven't spoken about in huge detail over the past couple of months, just because there's not been an awful lot going on in some of the teams like Palace, where they've just sort of been mid-table obscurity and not much to talk about. But we will go through as many of the teams as we can. But Newcastle signed off in fine form at the end of this season. 2-0 win against in fairness, very hapless and just awful Fulham team. But they've won 5 of their last 13. They've only lost 2 of those 13. And they were against Liverpool and City. But they picked up a lot of points. I mean, they ended up finishing 12th. And if you think it wasn't that far long ago that we were talking about Newcastle just above the relegation zone, they ended up finishing 17 points ahead of Fulham.
Yeah, well, we were talking about it potentially coming down to the last day of the season, them against Fulham.
Yeah.
In the end, it was almost like a nothing game.
It was a completely nothing game. I mean, it's their form has been really surprising. Obviously, they've got they had all their players back. They've got Willock on fine form. I mean, personally, I think Shearer should bow down and give Brucey a nice long-term contract for this, to be honest. But I mean,
did he break Shearer's record in the end?
I think he equalled it. We're talking about Joe Willock. Yeah, I think he equalled it. So seventh consecutive game for Newcastle in the Premier League that he's scored in. Only Alan Shearer managed that, so he's now equalled that.
Well, that's not a bad player to be on a level with, is it?
No, exactly not. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how good Lingard has been for West Ham, but I think Willock has had an equally big impact in Newcastle. He's come in on loan. He's been. Has he taken the weight off of St. Maximin and Wilson a little bit?
I think so. I mean, and he's a player that. I mean, when he went there, I didn't really think too much of it, to be honest.
No, me neither.
He's been one of their sort of star players, along with the likes of St. Maximin and Callum Wilson.
Did you see Ian Wright on Match of Day last night? When he was talking about it, you could see he was almost sad talking about it because like, we could probably have done with him at Arsenal, to be honest. Bruce has already said that they're going to try and test Arsenal's resolve in the summer. Do you see him going there permanently?
I can't see it happening now. It's because, I mean, Arsenal have got quite a few players on loan that will be going, with the likes of Odegaard and Ceballos, etc. So I imagine they'll be wanting to keep someone like Willock, especially with the season he's just had.
And also, I guess, Arsenal, they don't historically throw big money around or get lots of players in. They've now not got European football to tempt anyone in. They're going to have to rely on their youngsters. And they do have a good crop of youngsters, in fairness to them. Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Saka, Willock.
Yeah.
So they may have to lean on these players to actually help rebuild this team and try and push back up the league again.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they'll be able to sign Odegaard? I think now that they've not got European football, I can't see him wanting to go there.
I mean, he's had some really good moments, Odegaard, don't get me wrong. And he spent an awful lot of his time out on loan. I don't think he goes back to Madrid and plays.
No, I think
so. He's going to go somewhere else. But whether it's Arsenal, I'm not sure. Let's talk Fulham. As you said, for all the chat sort of 2 months ago when they were in an okay run of form, they weren't losing too many games, and everybody, including us, we all kind of expected them to get out of trouble. Newcastle were right in it, Burnley were right in it, and it's been awful. Like, they've just completely fallen away, and it's become, they've never actually looked in the last 2 months. They've never looked likely to get out of it. And one player, I mean, not that I'm putting this all at his feet, but one player that's really failed to shine is Alexander Mitrovic.
Yeah. It's almost sort of like Pookie for Norwich the season before, sort of their talisman. He started well, I think.
I think he did okay. I mean, most fantasy league managers probably would have taken a punt on him.
I did have him in my starting team, and very quickly got rid of him.
He was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, when Fulham got up to the Premier League the last time, he was pretty much the only person in that team that scored the goals. Obviously, they did get relegated, but he scored. I think he was in double figures. And then he went back down in the Championship, scored more goals. I think everyone expected him to do it again. But 3 goals in 27 appearances this season. And that was indicative of a wider problem. I mean, their top scorer, Decordova-Reid, only had 5 and ended up, as a team, only scoring more goals just than Sheffield United. Sheffield United were the only team to score less. And they've become the first side in Premier League history to not score double figures in home games. Only 9 goals they scored at home all season.
Wow.
Maybe a good thing that fans weren't allowed in stadiums this season. So Championship life again for them. Does Parker stay? Do you think they come back up?
I think he stays if he doesn't get offered like the Tottenham job.
Yeah. I think that's the only way he leaves for a much bigger team.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, when teams go down, you often look at their players and you think, right, how many of those players can realistically, maybe come back up in the Premier League? If you look at West Brom, I'm I know Conor Gallagher is on loan, but he looks really good. Pereira's probably the obvious one that's probably going to get nicked. When I look at Fulham, there's a lot of loan players there for a start, but I'm not seeing too many players in that Fulham side that I'm thinking Premier League teams are going to be interested in.
The goalkeeper, was he on loan, I think? From
PSG, wasn't he?
Yeah. Lookman, was he on loan?
Possibly, but again, I'm not sure people are going to take a stab on him. I felt like he was very skillful, but I feel like his end product was pretty poor.
Yeah, there's not really anyone that sort of stands out. But I would say that with all of the bottom. West Brom, like you say, maybe Pereira, but even sort of Sheffield. I think is it Berger?
Sanderberg, yeah.
I think he's the only sort of player I've seen that's been linked with the likes of Arsenal and stuff. But
yeah, that would be like having Arsenal signed, wouldn't it? You need to rebuild your team. I don't know what we'll do is we'll pick a player from the worst team in the Premier League and sign him. That'll do it. So, right, let's move on. Let's talk Wolves against Man United. I want to talk mainly about Wolves, but we'll touch on Man United first.
How are they second?
But all in all, jokes aside, it has been a really good season for United. And could you argue that if you win Europa on Wednesday, that it goes from being a good season to a great season?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think with the team we've got, you have to say second's pretty good when you look at the players at Chelsea and that side.
I think I only question how they second because you complain about them so much.
Because you just got into your head.
In my head, I'm like, they're really shit.
To be honest, although, Harry Maguire's injured, although before I'd have been like, well, I'm not really that fast, he has been a massive player for us and he is our captain. And I do think that will have an impact in the final, but
do you think that's just more exposed the fact that you don't have any other good centre-backs?
Yeah, even with the players we've got, we should be going into that final as clear favourites, and I'll be very angry if we don't come away from that game. Villarreal,
okay.
If we don't
Unai Emery, isn't it? Of course it is.
If we don't come... The only thing I'm worried about is the fact that Unai Emery is a serial winner of the Europa League.
Yeah.
He just seems to always win it, no matter who he's sort of playing with, so, yeah.
And just quickly, we've already touched on Cavani, so we won't go over that one again, but who do you see? Do you see quite a big changing of players in the summer? Do you feel like there's a lot of deadwood that particularly needs to go and new players coming in?
There is a lot of deadwood that needs to go, but Solskjaer did a press conference the other day and he said he can only see 2 or 3 players leaving. And I think there's about 8 that need to go.
Who do you think those 2 or 3 are then?
I would say Delo, who's on loan at AC Milan.
Oh yeah, the fullback.
Yeah. Mata and Matic are probably the other 2, I believe. I saw that Mourinho wants to sign Matic for Roma.
Of course he does.
And Mata sort of hinted that he wants to carry on playing football and he's just not playing at United. So
Matic and Mourinho is like Nico Cranshaw and Harry Redknapp,
it literally is. So I think if 3 go, they'll be the 3. I'd like Phil Jones to go, but I don't know who would want him.
That bloke is literally stealing a living off of Man United.
We gave him a 5-year contract as well.
It must be for the English quota of players. That's incredible. Do you think United can close that gap to City next season, or do you think that United might just get let? United have been the next best. They've had an amazing away record. They've not lost away all season, which has been very good. Obviously, they kept going a goal behind and winning, which was astonishing that they did that all season long. But do you think that's going to catch them out? Do you think that other teams are going to step up and you think United are going to get left behind a bit? Or do you think they can keep the pace and close the gap as well?
The problem is, I've sort of noticed a pattern over the last, 6-7 years that when we finish really well, the following season, the manager doesn't tend to get backed.
Yeah.
It's only when we sort of finish 5th or 6th that the sort of board panic and try their best to get back into the Champions League.
And throw loads of money at it.
Yeah, so, we get linked with, likes of Harry Kane, Jadon Sancho, this, that and the other, but I feel like we'll be going for the 3rd, 4th or 5th targets rather than the 1st or 2nd.
Yeah.
We're miles off of City.
Yeah.
We would need 4 or 5 marquee signings to be anywhere near City, to be honest.
Yeah. And Man United's transfer deal, although Woodward is obviously not going to be around for a great deal. I think he goes at the end of the season.
Goes at the end, yeah.
The way in which the transfer was done with Maguire, they left it last minute. They almost ended up doing the same thing with Sancho.
Well, yeah, with Sancho, we played a game of, I don't even know what to call it, but Dortmund we won 120 million and we were like,
We'll give you 30.
Yeah, we'll give you 30. And then they went, no, 120. We were like, 31? It was sort of cat and mouse all season. And it got to the end of the season. I think they were a bit like, I don't think we're going to get Sancho,
Dortmund are just sitting there like, we're bored. Can you just either match our offer or leave us the fuck alone?
Yeah. Crazy.
So, all right, let's talk Wolves. Probably one of the biggest underachievers of the season, would you say?
Yes. Yeah.
They've ended up finishing below Newcastle, which is an astonishing result, really, given both seasons, I guess, from both clubs' point of view, where Newcastle were. I want to start with talking about Adama Traore. He obviously had that. He had a very good season the season before this one. Do you think, is he all hype or is there substance there?
He's a very sort of strange player because, I mean, I think it was 2 seasons ago, was it last season? He actually had a really, really good season.
Yeah. That was when Wolves had their great run in the...
Yeah, but for the most part, he's been pretty underwhelming, and I don't think he's going to become a great player. I think he's just a sort of...
The one-trick pony?
I think he's a squad filler, yeah, and I think once you figure him out, obviously he's very fast and he's very strong, but he's got no end product whatsoever.
Yeah.
If a manager could come in and sort of like what Guardiola did with Sterling and change that, then maybe there could be a great player there. But
yeah, Raul Jimenez. Finally, we got some news on him and his plight. So obviously, he suffered the horrific head injury a lot earlier in the season. We haven't seen him since, or really heard anything from him since. But he is going to be back next season, wearing a protective head guard, rather understandably given the extent of his injuries. But they have really, really missed him this season, haven't they? They signed Fabio Silva, the youngster, but he's not really stepped up to the plate yet. And yeah, they've just not scored enough goals this season, have they?
No. I think one of the commentators was saying a few weeks ago that when they signed that Fabio Silva, the idea was to sort of give him 10 minutes here or there, and he's ended up playing as their main striker.
Yeah.
He still is only like 18, I believe. And he's obviously come from the Portuguese league, which is very different to the Premier League.
They should feel right at home. Portuguese player coming into Wolves. Fran, Nuno leaves after 4 years. We've said earlier about him potentially going to Spurs. How would you feel about Nuno coming to Spurs?
I don't know. I really don't know who should go in to manage them, to be honest. I feel like Spurs in general are just at a bit of a weird crossroad. I don't really know. I mean, he's a good manager, isn't he? He's done amazing things for Wolves.
Yeah, I mean,
despite their it's ending a bit not great for them. But.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of the he led them to promotion in his first season. He got, I think, 99 points in their championship run as well, which is obviously I don't know if that's a record, but it must be up there. Then they got the highest league finish in the top flight for 39 years with the 7th and got Europa League. They then got to the FA Cup semi-final in first time in 21 years. Finished 7th again the following season and then had that really good run to the Europa League quarter-finals, which is the best they've done in Europe since the early 70s. And they've cornered the world's market on Portuguese players. So overall, I think he has done a really, really good job there. If you exclude this season and the way it's panned out, I think he has done a very good job there.
Yeah, although I think with that one, it was a lot as to do with the sort of how the club's being run as well. It's a bit like the Leicester situation with Wolves. They've got like a system, and the whole club is being run a certain way. It's not like we'll go out and we'll just buy whoever we can. They know who they're going after, etc.
Yeah. If he doesn't go to Spurs, do you think he stays in the Premier League?
I mean, there's a lot of jobs available. At the end of this season, there's a few managers leaving. Isn't
Palace.
I think Lampard will go to Palace. I can't see Nuno wanting to go from Wolves to Palace, to be honest. But it is interesting that he's sort of left with all these jobs suddenly available. So I do feel he'll be favourite for the Spurs job.
He's been linked in the past with that job.
Yeah, he has. And the other managers that have been linked with it, the likes of Inzaghi, Scott Parker and Graham Potter, you would have thought Nuno would be at the top of that list.
Yeah, Graham Potter was an interesting one because we talked about this, didn't we? I'm a fan of Graham Potter because I feel like my argument, my side of the argument to this with you as to why I think that he wouldn't be the worst shout for a Spurs manager is that the brand of football that he is trying to play with Brighton and has successfully played with Brighton would be would work a lot better with a better squad of players. So if he got that group of players, with respect to Brighton, they're not the best squad of players, reflected by their position and the season that they've had. If he can get the Spurs players playing like that with better quality players, then I think Spurs fans would be happy because they're seeing, not the Mourinho football they've seen for the last couple of seasons. But obviously there is the question mark is that is a huge step from Brighton to Spurs. And as you rightly said, if Spurs announce their next manager after they've had Mourinho, Pochettino, all these big name managers, Graham Potter from Brighton, it's a bit underwhelming.
Yeah, although Guardiola did say he was the best English manager.
Well, if he's got a Pepsi endorsement, then there you go.
But I agree, in terms of football and the style of football he plays, I think I really enjoy actually watching Brighton, even though obviously they don't have the players to quite match what he wants to do. But yeah, like I said to you before, if the fans go from Jose Mourinho to Graham Potter, it's a little bit underwhelming.
What about Wolves? What's next for them? Didn't you say the rumour was that the Benfica manager is
Benfica and Porto, they're looking at apparently those two managers, so I think it's going to be the Portuguese.
It's actually ridiculous. I don't know if anyone else has seen, Google Wolves' third kit as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's actually the Portugal top. This just is like subliminal messaging. It's like they're trying, like Portugal are trying to take over the Premier League, but if they do it slowly, people just won't notice. They keep just putting the odd Portuguese player in there.
Their badge will change to red and green slowly.
Just little segments over the next few years until it changes completely. Right, let's touch on the European Championships quickly. We are obviously now, Premier League season has ended. Outside of the Champions League, obviously all eyes are going to be firmly focused on June the 11th, I believe it is, when the Euros gets underway. England's squad is announced tomorrow, so by the time this comes out, I think a few hours afterwards, the squad is going to be announced. Do we think there's going to be any surprises in it?
Well, I heard this morning potentially Ben White might be included in the squad.
Really?
Plays at Brighton. Was on loan at Leeds last season.
He's a defender, right?
Yeah, something like
does that rumour suggest then that Maguire's not making it?
Maybe. I don't know. You would have thought, because there's room, from what I've heard, Maguire's sort of still 50-50 whether he'll play against Villarreal. So the fact that he's 50-50 and he's not like a definite no would make me think that he'll be fine for the Euros.
Yeah. And even if not, because we've got the slightly bigger squads, there's a space for taking a risky player that may or may not play.
You look at what centre-backs we've got. You've got Connor Cody's, I would say, going to go.
Yeah.
Tyrone Mings, I would say, is going to go. And then your John Stones, your Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
So that's 4. Do we need 5 centre-backs?
Well, if it keeps Eric Dyer out of the team, I'll take
the 5th. But I'm assuming he's going to take Kyle Walker, so he's another one that he quite often plays at centre-back.
Yeah, if he plays a 3, Kyle Walker often will play on the right of the 3, won't he?
So, yeah.
Which probably means if Harry Maguire's not playing, it will be Stones, Cody and Walker, you would think, as that 3. Do you see some of the outsiders? Obviously, Southgate rotated the team quite a lot in the last few friendlies with players like Jude Bellingham coming back in, Lingard. Do you see any of those making the team?
I could see Bellingham. I think I could see Lingard being involved. Although with Lingard, it's one of those because before when Southgate did include him, he said that he didn't want to. He was just sort of forced to because of injuries.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that will carry on into the Euros, but I think Bellingham will probably be involved because he's been very good for Dortmund and he's different because he's so tall and he's quite a strong player. Although he is young, he's just something a bit different. Yeah. Do you think Grealish makes in? He's obviously back from injuries, had a couple of games now.
Yeah, I think there would be a national uproar.
Yeah, I think there'd be an uproar if he wasn't. They've already made his tiny little shin pads for him.
Yeah, little cardboard cutouts. Rumour is now that Nick Pope is a doubt. Apparently Sean Dyche has said that he's having surgery on a troublesome knee injury. That could just be a very minor surgery. It may not be serious. It might be, sufficient enough or less impactful that he can play. But he's not number one anyway.
No, I was going to say I don't think it'll make too much difference to the team. So we'll just have to choose another third choice keeper.
I should imagine it'll be Sam Johnston from West Brom.
Yeah,
so it'll be Pickford, Henderson, and Johnston.
Yeah, or I guess Ramsdale.
I think if I was Johnston, given the season that he's had, I'd be very disappointed if Ramsdale got in front of me. Yeah,
well, then did you see the West Brom game the other day? He had a shocker.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Not good timing to do that.
Came straight at him and he's Done like into his own net.
Right, so we're going to get on to Statman shortly. Fran, would you be so kind as to grab the Premier League predictions papers, and we'll do that afterwards as well. So, but first, we will start with Dan the Statman.
Dan the Stat Man.
So Vladimir Coufal has recorded the second most Premier League assists from a defender this season with 7. But can you tell me which defender finished the season with the most assists?
I would say Chilwell.
It was not Chilwell.
No, okay. Was it? I think going through the other teams. Cancelo.
No.
Okay. Alexander-Arnold?
Nope.
Okay, I'm bored now.
It was actually Aaron Cresswell.
No way!
With 8.
So West Ham had first and second in the assists from fullbacks.
Yeah.
Wow. Why isn't Aaron Cresswell? Get him on the plane. Get him on the plane. Right. It's Premier League prediction time. So for those of you that weren't listening at the very start of the show, we did this at the start of the season. We took down some guesses on what we thought was going to happen throughout the Premier League season. So, Fran, do you want to just remind us of the categories first that we were writing down?
So we did league winners, top 4, relegated, top goal scorer, top for assists, most red cards, best of promoted, first sacked manager, best signing of the summer, biggest flop of the season, and dark horse of the season.
So there's a couple of those that are a bit ambiguous that we're going to have to kind of decide.
Yeah.
We're going to have to kind of decide between us if we're going to award points here.
Have you?
Well, because earlier on,
had a look at who's got the most red cards and stuff, etc.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've written them down. So because earlier on, because of the confusion about where we were doing this podcast tonight, I thought I was going to have to read them out from Zoom. So I've already been through and marked them. So I already know some of them, but obviously there's discussions to be had about the flops and the signings of the season.
Okay, so league winner, we all put Manchester City, of course.
I was really worried about that at one point in this. So when we were talking earlier in the season about how bad Man City were, I was thinking, shit, the first one off the gate, the one that is probably the easiest because it's one of 2.
Yeah.
And I thought we'd all got it wrong, or I thought I'd got it wrong. So, okay, well, that's 1 point each.
Oh, interesting. Top 4, we all went for the teams that ended up in the top 4, and we all went for the same order, just got the wrong order.
Really?
Yeah.
So what did we put?
So Chris put City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United. I put City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United. Dan put City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United.
See, that's why this podcast works, because we're all on the same wavelength.
We're all wrong, but we've got the right teams.
Didn't have the faith in my own team.
I'm just in the wrong order. How funny. Right, relegated. Chris put West Brom, Fulham and Brighton. Not bad.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Dan put Villa, West Brom and Fulham.
I think Villa was a fair shout.
Based
on the season they had last year.
Yeah. So again, 2 out of 3. And I put Palace, West Brom and Fulham.
So we didn't have an awful lot of collective faith in West Brom and Fulham.
No.
We all thought Sheffield would escape the drop.
And they were the worst team in the league.
Whoopsie. Top scorer, Chris put Mo Salah.
Close.
Dan and I both put Aubameyang. Not close.
How did Aubameyang get on this year?
I always remember that I put that one as well.
I knew I'd put him. Because I remember halfway through the season thinking, I don't think he scored 1 goal.
So none of us got that. Top assists. Chris put Kevin De Bruyne. Dan put Bruno Fernandes. And I put De Bruyne as well. Obviously Kane.
Harry Kane, yeah. I think Fernandes was second, I think.
None of us had faith in Harry Kane, did we? Because he's got 2 of them.
Not for assists, no.
We didn't even put him for top scorer.
Harry Kane top assist.
Great guy. Right, most red cards. Chris put Lewis Dunk.
I actually got this right. I'm amazed.
Oh, really?
I put Lewis Dunk, yeah.
Yeah, you got it right. Dan put David Luiz. And I put Kyle Walker / Son.
Yeah, I've got a bone to pick with you on this because you did a couple of answers where you gave 2 answers. But yeah, look, so when I checked earlier, Lewis Dunk was the only player to be sent off more than once this season.
Oh, wow.
So
well done. Smash that. Best of the promoted teams. We all put Leeds.
Yeah, I think that one's fairly obvious.
Yeah.
Since the other 2 got relegated.
Next season will be interesting.
Yeah, it will be.
First sacked manager.
Yeah, this one didn't go quite as well.
Chris puts
David Moyes.
Well, I was very negative at the start of the season about West Ham and their chances, and I looked at the first 8 fixtures, and I just foresaw a collapse and a calamity, and I just thought that he was going to go because I knew that he wasn't the favourite with the owners, and we'd already had him on loan or had him for half a season, then got rid of him for Pellegrini.
Who was it? Was it Bilic?
It was, yeah, Slaven Bilic in the end. So
I put Mourinho, and Dan put Scott Parker.
So I gave you half a point for yours because you were the only one that actually guessed a manager that got sacked. So the rest of us.
Signing of the summer, Chris put Willian.
Yeah, that didn't go well either.
No, I mean, and then Dan and I both put Timo Werner.
Yeah, that didn't go that well.
At the start of this, had not much idea about football, so I just copied Dan on a few of these.
It's been a learning experience for you.
It has been a learning experience.
Don't copy me.
Well, no. Flop of the season. Chris put Everton. To be debated.
What was I going to say? What were the other 2?
Dan and I both put Tottenham.
You could say yes to all of them. Really.
Yeah, because if you look at like where you would expect both teams to be, they both failed in the same sort of way.
And both their starts to the season compared to the end of the season.
I'm gonna allow you to have the point on this because I feel like Spurs getting to another final, sacking their manager, and just everything that's gone on with Spurs this season, sacking the manager they brought in to win trophies a week before the final, was just insane. I just don't understand it. So I think Spurs, out of the 3 we've given, or out of the 2 we've given, so I will let you have Spurs. Even though Everton have been shit.
So, and then Dark Horse. So, what is it? Dark Horse / best. Just Dark Horse of the season. Dark Horse of the season. So, Chris put Palace.
Yes. I've not done well here, have I?
Dan put Leeds, which is right, and I put Leeds / Wolves, so I get half a point.
Yeah, I think Dark Horse in the end. I mean, it's a kind of a weird category because that's effectively our opinion on saying that we think this team's going to do quite well. We probably have to revise that category.
Yeah. So Chris got 5.
But yeah, I mean, Leeds have been the dark horses. I mean, they could have very easily finished 8th on that last day of the season if Arsenal hadn't won. So to come up and I guess it's almost like it wasn't a massive surprise that Leeds did well because we all expected them to do well. But I don't think we expected them to be unbeaten at home against the top 6. To play the way they've done against all the big teams and do what they've done, and also not do the stereotypical thing that Bielsa teams tend to do and run out of steam at the end of the season. If anything, they got better as the season went on.
Yeah, at one point during the last game of the season as well, they actually leapfrogged Arsenal and potentially even Spurs because of the way the games were going.
What, so they could have ended up
They could have ended up higher up.
In the conference. Wow, that would have been something. So
Chris, you got 5 and Dan and I got 6.
Oh.
I would give yourself the
Everton.
Everton
I would give you Everton. So
okay, we'll take a joint win. Oh, what a journey.
What winners?
We're all winners. It's like being a school sports day. Everyone gets a medal. Right, okay. Well, only one thing left to do then. I guess, should we do... Maybe we do like European predictions.
Yeah, that's
before the Euros start, we'll do that again for the Euros. So, right.
I was saying to Fran, it's a shame we don't know more foreign people because it'd be good to get like a Slovakian person on or a Croatian player on.
Any of our listeners?
Right,
Not
okay.
quite international yet.
So as we wind down the show then, it's time for Football with Fran.
Welcome back to Football with Fran. Last one of the Premier League season.
Yeah, I guess we can maybe wrap this season 2 of Football Fran up and maybe come up with a new game for
season 3.
Season 3.
We are getting through the seasons.
Netflix are on the phone. They want 2 more seasons.
Great. Right. So.
Do you need to say thanks to the person that gave you these?
No, I was going to ignore that. No, I wasn't. I was going to give him a shout out at the end.
Okay.
Okay. So first one. Anyone got dibs on who wants to go first?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Go on then, quick. Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh,
Rock, paper, scissors. Yes, I'll take it. There we go.
Chris. Okay. First player is Danny Murphy.
Oh, okay.
Played for 6 teams.
Just show you on my notes. I'm going to write them down.
Alright, how many are you thinking, Chris? While they're working this out, big shout out to Pete who set me up with these names.
How
many has he played for, sorry?
6.
I'll go 3.
3, alright. Daniel?
For God's sake. I know 3.
That's right in the slot, that one, I reckon.
Yeah, I know 3. I'm just trying to think.
3's
if I
like
know
the number,
4.
isn't it, for this game? You're going at 3, you've got a good chance.
Danny Murphy.
I mean, we're on a podcast, so in your own time.
Yeah.
Well,
A short game's a good game, Dan.
I'll go 4.
You go 4. I'm not doing 5.
Go on then.
So I think I definitely know 3, and the 4th one's a guess. Liverpool,
Yeah.
Spurs,
Yeah.
Fulham,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the 3 I had.
and Newcastle.
No.
Ah, fine.
Well done, Chris. So it's Crew Alexandra, Liverpool, Charlton,
Charlton.
Charlton and literally every single player, I swear.
Tottenham, Fulham, Blackburn Rovers.
If I don't know in the future, I'm just going to say Charlton.
Blackburn would have been my 4th guess if I had to go.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have known the championship team.
The thing is, when you think about these players, you imagine in your head, you're thinking, was he wearing that kit?
Yeah.
And for some reason in your head, you can make an argument to say, yeah, he was definitely in that kit.
I know
wasn't he?
most of the Premier League teams, but I don't know where they were on loan when they were like 18 years old. You know what I mean?
Second player is Edgar Davids.
Edgar Davids.
Davids. Oh, Pete literally pronounced all of these for me, but I can't listen to them back on the podcast. He's played for 8 teams.
8. Oh my God.
Dan, you're up.
I'm trying to think of he played in like League 2.
Yeah, he was player manager for somebody.
Yeah.
Who was it? Because all he did was he turned up for a few games and he got sent off like 3 times in one season. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I think it was them.
I think I know that. Whoa.
Right, how many can you guess?
I'm literally I'm counting with my fingers out. Dan can see how many.
I've got 3.
Is that your bid?
Yeah, 3.
I'll go 4.
Yeah, I can't do 5.
Go on, Chris.
Right. Spurs.
Yeah.
Barcelona.
Yes.
I think the low league club was Barnet.
I had Barnet as well.
Yeah.
Now here's where it gets a bit fuzzy, but I'm going to take an educated guess and say Ajax.
Yeah, smashed it.
Juventus?
Yep.
He was at Juve, yeah.
Yeah. Ajax, Milan, Juventus, Barcelona, Inter Milan, Spurs, Ajax, Crystal Palace, Barnet.
It's really weird, isn't it? Like,
Barnet.
what a way to finish. Did you say Crystal Palace?
Yeah.
I completely forgot he was there. Isn't it weird though, like how these big European players, people like Davids and Crespo and all these other ones, they always play for both Milan teams.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that in here? Like, it's very rare you ever get people who play for both Manchester clubs or Liverpool and Everton.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but in
Their
Italy it
name's like
seems.
Tevez.
I know it's the same stadium, but even so.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
2-0 Dan. Come on, you've got to step up your game here, boy.
Chris, you ready?
Go on,
Next one. The next player is, let me see how many he's played for. Kevin Prince Boateng.
Boateng.
Kevin Prince Boateng.
13 clubs.
Oh,
Yeah, he is a bit of a
So
stat
he's played
qualifier.
for like Chinese and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, he's gone
Yeah,
wherever
this
the
is
money
where I'm going to sub you in to name some of the teams.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to get them. Any of
Well, we
those
could just say to
ones.
people, if you're interested in knowing, just Google them.
Yeah.
Right, Kevin Prince Boateng. So, 13 was it?
Yeah.
I thought that was your bid then. That's so bad.
Go out and blaze of glory. Well, that's put me off now.
To appreciate though, Chris is counting on his fingers, which is nice.
I mean, the thing is Dan is right. He has played for some really obscure clubs, so I can actually only think. I think I can think of 4.
All right, Dan.
Fuck's sake. I've got 4 at the moment. Trying to think of 5.
Good luck. Can't even pronounce 4 of these.
I'm just trying to think if I know any Saudi Arabian teams. Just stab in the dark at one of them.
Saudi Arabia, the well-known Saudi Arabian. We all choose Saudi Arabian teams on Football Manager, don't we?
Yeah. No.
I'll go 5.
Ooh, girl.
Yeah, go on. All yours.
I think I might be wrong on one of my 4th guesses, but Pompey,
Yes.
Milan,
Yes.
Bayern.
FC Bayern or Bayern Munich.
It's definitely at
I
Bayern.
was going to say I could have sworn he was there. Fran's frantically switching.
I don't think so.
Really? I could have sworn he went there.
I mean it.
Yeah.
No, he's not down here.
Can we have an official adjudicator, please? I swear he went there.
Let's have a quick look, shall we? Talk amongst yourselves, listeners, while we sort this out. No, he was not. He was not there.
The fact that you two have had to research it, even though I'm literally looking at it on Wikipedia, and you don't believe me.
I could have sworn he went there.
No, but thanks for your faith in me, everyone. Yeah.
You have an official apology in the mail.
Thanks. Right, well, as you're on it, Chris, do you want to read out who he did it for?
Oh, now all of a sudden you want my help.
Well, his brother's there.
So who else did you have? So you
Barcelona?
said...
He was there on loan.
Was that your...
Oh, it was at Schalke.
Yeah, so teams were Hertha Berlin...
Oh, and I had Al Jafar as my Saudi Arabia.
El Jafar? Is that actually a team, or is that just the bloke from...
Sounds like Aladdin.
I was going to say, it's the bloke from Aladdin, isn't it?
Is that not one then?
No. Actually, I don't think he has gone for a Chinese team looking at this. So anyway, Hertha Berlin, Spurs, Dortmund, Portsmouth. He went to Genoa but didn't play, so that one doesn't count. AC Milan, Schalke, back to AC Milan again, Las Palmas, Eintracht Frankfurt, Sassuolo, Barcelona on loan, Fiorentina, Besiktas, and then Monza, which I'm assuming is Italy. So yeah, no Chinese, no weird teams.
But thanks, guys. That was nice.
You're very welcome.
Right.
Just got to make sure it's not a whitewash now.
Who's getting that?
Dan, I believe, is going first for this one.
The next player is Michael Keane. 6 clubs.
Oh.
Oh.
Just say 3.
I do know 3. Can I do 4?
Oof.
Oh, I've written Keane down instead of one of the teams.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
I'm going to say 3 because I don't think Chris can do 4.
I'm not even sure I can do 3.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I can't. Come on, get yourself back in the game.
My 3 is United,
Yeah.
Burnley, and Everton.
Yeah.
I forgot he was at Burnley.
He was on loan at Leicester, Derby, and Blackburn Rovers.
There you go. It's not a whitewash, Dan. You've avoided the whitewash.
Thank God.
And last one, Chris, is Peter Shilton. Played for 11 clubs.
You've got to be kidding me. Jesus Christ, Pete.
I could probably do 1.
Yep. I mean, I can pronounce these teams, which helps.
I
So
don't have a clue.
I'm here for that.
Oh my God.
I can't remember one.
To be fair, Pete couldn't name one last week, could he, for the last
No.
one?
No, this is his revenge, isn't it?
It is.
I don't.
I mean, I knew this was old, but I've just let it go.
Oh man. I genuinely think I can only do 1.
That's fine. Dan?
2.
Go on then.
Can I do 3? I'll take a stab at 3.
Yeah, Chris can have it.
Go on then, Chris.
Spurs. Please don't. That was my ace in the hole. That was the one I thought was right. Is he not at Spurs? Oh my God. Was that the other one I had was Arsenal?
Yeah, I had Arsenal.
No.
What?
Liverpool?
No.
Oh, and Palace.
I could have sworn he was at one of those clubs. 'Cause
No.
Where was he? Are we on about a different player?
this is a guy that got 125 caps for England.
Yeah.
Like, he must have been at one of the
Where
big
was he
clubs.
at then?
He was at Leicester, Stoke, Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Derby, Plymouth, Wimbledon, Bolton Wanderers, Coventry, West Ham, Leyton Orient.
He was at West Ham, that's embarrassing. That is ridiculous.
That's crazy. He wasn't at one of the top 6.
That's mental.
Interesting.
Although actually, well, to be fair, I should have ruled out a couple because he didn't actually make any appearances for West Ham.
Oh, okay.
Apologies.
I feel less bad about that now. Right.
But yeah, there you go. Well, that was a shambles for your last one, wasn't it?
Nah, it's another win though. Tell you what, my form in this game, I'm peaking at the end of the season again. It's like I did in the first season against you. Right, so it's been lovely. Been lovely being in your
our first Premier League season.
Our first Premier League season. It is.
Oh my goodness.
So yes,
episodes.
Still some more to go. Annabelle said to me earlier, she said, "Are you having a break from the podcast?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Why not? The Premier League season's ended." And I'm like, "Yeah, there's Euros in a few weeks." She's like, "What, more football?" So yeah, we are going to continue. Depending on how things go, we might take a couple of weeks at the end of the Euros before the season starts.
Oh, I tell you what is happening next week.
Go on.
The forfeit.
Oh God, yeah. I've forgotten about this.
We're not going to tell you what it is, and we're not going to tell Chris what it is, but we will be doing it live on air next week, and we'll film it as well, put it out on our social channels.
Oh God. So yeah, for those that don't know, me and Dan agreed that whoever lost the first season of Football with Fran would do a forfeit. And it all got a bit tense towards the end of it.
A couple of replays.
We had to do a replay because there was a problem with one of the recordings, which actually I would have won. That was the decider I would have won. We had to do a do-over, and Dan won the return leg. And then I think we did a decider, didn't we? We did best of 3 effectively, and you won the last one. So yeah, forfeit coming my way next week. I have absolutely no idea what it is. I've got an idea in my head. I think I'm scaring myself into what it might be. So yeah, that'll be next week. So, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for all your support across the Premier League season. As I say, more to come. We've got the Champions League final to come, Europa League final to come. Oh, competition, of course. Thank you for reminding me. So, those of you who are on our social media pages will have seen that we've started our competition. All you need to do is go onto our social media and follow the links to the giveaway. We are doing a £30 JD voucher, which you can, spend yourself, give to family or friends or whatever you want to do with it. And all you have to do is answer the question, which is, what is the largest capacity stadium in the English Premier League, which I'm sure everyone knows. But answer that question. There's a few other ways you can enter as well to give yourself more of a chance of winning. I haven't actually checked to see who's entered yet, but given that we don't have humongous reach, if you enter, you've got a good chance of winning. So get yourself involved. And thank you everyone for all your support and listening. And we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.